Good evening, everyone. Welcome to City Audience. And welcome to an evening with Mosab, Toha, and friends. So tonight's event is being brought to you in conjunction with the Middle Eastern Children's Alliance. Before we begin, I would like to mention, as we do, as is customary at the beginning of each event, we are, of course, beaming to you as well online. Hello, everyone, all our friends across the world. We are beaming to you from the unceded ancestral homelands of the Ramaytush peoples. Just want to take a moment before we begin to pay our respects. The Middle Eastern Children's Alliance is a nonprofit organization working for the rights and well-being of children in the Mideast. MECA supports dozens of community projects for Palestinian children and refugees from Syria. Since 1988, they've delivered up to $31 million in food and medical aid to those in need. So tonight is a benefit for the Middle Eastern Children's Alliance. We're honored to have with us really an amazing group of poets. So to get the evening started, I would like to welcome Layla Hashemi, who's a MECA representative, to join us.
Okay. Thank you, everyone who's here. Thank you to the City Lights Foundation for putting on this event. Elaine, the whole staff, and of course Mosab for making the time to be with us tonight. Middle East Children's Alliance, if for anyone who's not familiar, is a nonprofit that has been working in the Middle East for a very long time. And right now, most of our efforts are focused on emergency relief since October. We have worked with Mosab, he's a good friend of ours, and we partnered with him in 2018 to build another Edward Said library in Gaza City. As you can imagine, this library was more than just books, books that actually were in English and in Arabic. It was a place where people could come for community. If they had classes for art, drama, computer programming, there were writing workshops for adults and for children. And it was a safe space for people. Like most of the infrastructure in Gaza, it has been bombed by Israeli bombs. And so we don't know the current state. And as much as we'd love to think about rebuilding the libraries and building more, right now our focus is completely on emergency relief. We have food kitchens, hygiene kits that are going out. We provide the funds for the generators at 3 hospitals. We are providing toys to children in the hospitals and in the camps. Plastic tarps for the tents, because like today in San Francisco, it's raining, it's winter, and it's cold, and it's miserable. And these people are facing a genocide thanks to US taxpaying dollars. So right now, MECA's goal is to support the people in Palestine, to support the people in Gaza. That is our main effort. We are in solidarity with the Palestinian people. We support their steadfastness, or in Arabic, sumud. And it's very important for us that Palestinians live with dignity. And I think that's the main thing that we should also remember as we move forward. It's a lot of the staff that we have in Gaza are truly amazing. There's no words I think I can say to give that justice to describe what they're doing, because they've relocated themselves, their families, they're facing genocide, they're trying to survive, and they're constantly working and organizing and getting food and aid to their community members and their neighborhoods and their people. So we have this amazing team in Gaza, and we couldn't do it without them. And in fact, one of the librarians at the public Edward Said Library, Toha, she was killed with her family in an airstrike in the middle of the night. And just 2 days before, she had been distributing food kits in northern Gaza. So I say this with a heavy heart. This is a very difficult time, to say the least. And I think we're very lucky to be in a space tonight to gather together and think about the art. And Mosab has graced the world and graciously shared his pain through his writing. And the difficulties that Palestinians and people in Gaza are going through. But it's not just that. He's shown the love and the resilience and the strength. So I hope that we can build from that as we've entered the 5th month of genocide, and where our leaders refuse to do the bare minimum by calling for a ceasefire. So I know I speak for myself where the frustration and the anger and the grief, how can we mobilize that? And how can we continue to support in solidarity the Palestinian people as they face ethnic cleansing and genocide at the hands of Israel? So I hope that this night gives everyone a little bit of strength so we can push forward with our collective power to keep doing things, to keep being active, because that's the only way forward, and that's the only way we can do something, and it's the only way we can save lives, and it's as simple as that. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for having us, and we really appreciate your support.
And now, please welcome Elaine Katzenberger, who is the Executive Director of City Lights Booksellers and Publishers and the publisher of City Lights Books.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to City Lights. There's a lot I was going to say and want to say, and I don't want to take a lot of time. And thank you, Layla, who actually said a lot of what I thought I might say about Mosab and the power of his voice. Just want to add a couple of things. In addition to the outrage and the sense of the necessity of moving grief and pain forward and joining together in that and taking power from that, how to move something in the right direction. There's also the way that we join together in community to heal and to find strength in community with each other, to help nurture us to keep going. And tonight was conceived as a ceremony towards that, of putting love and healing and support among us and generating it further and putting it out into the world. And especially because we know him and we love him, Mosab Toha, who is having to show up and be a voice day after day for an entire people who are in incredible suffering, as is he. And the loss that he has suffered and continues to suffer is something that I think all of us would find unbearable. And yet, he's here with us tonight, and his book is such a powerful thing. I have witnessed it myself, and I published it because that's how I felt at a time, that the book was conceived during a particularly horrific Israeli bombing campaign in Gaza in 2021. That was nothing, obviously, compared to this. And Mosab's voice and the power of it, it's evident from the beginning, and it was received that way, and it continues to be that. And because I am here at City Lights, and because we published that book, I know, because I have people from all over the world telling me, I want, that poem, his poems are in every language in the world now. They're being translated all the time. They're being passed around. People need poetry. They need art. They need joy. They need creativity, all the things that make us humans that are good. We need that too. So here we are at City Lights, where books and poetry in particular, we truly actually fully know and believe what they can do. And it's clear. And I just want us to hold Mosab with a lot of love tonight and let him feel it, and let him feel it so he can continue to give it to his family and to his community and to all the people who are asking him for so much right now. Thank you so much for coming. Please be generous to MECA, who's doing amazing work, and enjoy the evening and the power of Mosab's words and presence with us. Thank you.
So they're going to have a really short interlude between Garrett and Mosab and Ammiel. So I just want to let you know we need to actually set the link up so we don't get feedback in the room. But I do want to welcome now Garrett Caples, who is the poetry editor at City Lights.
Thanks, Pete. So I just wanted to begin and just acknowledge our founder, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and thank him for creating a space where you can do an event like this. Lawrence had a lot of handy maxims for poets in times of crisis, so let me quote two. Generate collective joy in the face of collective gloom, and don't ever believe poetry is irrelevant in dark times. We ask everyone here to please donate something, no matter how small, using the QR code on the back of the program, which programs are at the front desk, so you can get one. If you didn't get one coming in, you can get one going out. And ask you to just donate something to MECA using the QR code on the back of the program. And maybe at the end of the night, there's a basket in case you don't do QR codes, and I'll have it up here at the podium if you want to give cash. And those of you online will see a link periodically pop up in the chat portion of the Zoom, and we encourage you to use it. We want to thank all the poets for participating. We have a lot to read tonight. We need to keep it tight. So we'll be calling poets up by name to the microphone, and you can find their bios in the program for further information. And as Peter said, we're going to begin tonight with Mosab Abu Toha himself and Ammiel Alcalay, who brought this project to City Lights. And we need a minute to set up the technical end of this. And if possible, we need just a bit of silence in the room so the broadcasting stuff will work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much, Elaine. Thank you, City Lights, for everything. I have lost so many things in my life, and unfortunately, I think this loss will continue to happen. I don't know what I'm going to lose next time, next day. But I didn't lose one thing, which is the love of people around me, the love that City Lights holds for me and the readers that are present here and also in the store. I hope that my words can change a little bit in the minds of the people who are encouraging and fueling what is taking away many of the things that I hold dear to my heart. And thank you also, Ammiel, to join me. Me and him will be reading the first long poem of the book, Palestine AZ. And I encourage everyone to donate to MECA because what they are doing is a necessary work. There is little support that Palestinians are getting because of the evil cut of UNRWA support by major powers. They are no longer majors. The people, the free people of the world should be the major power in the world. Palestine AZ. A. An apple that fell from the table on a dark evening when man-made lightning flashed through the kitchen, the streets, and the sky, rattling the cupboards and breaking the dishes. Am is the linking verb that follows I in the present tense, when I am no longer present, when I am shattered. B, a book that doesn't mention my language or my country and has maps of every place except for my birthplace, as if I were an illegitimate child on Mother Earth. Borders are those invented lines drawn with ash on maps and sewn into the ground by bullets. C. Gaza is a city where tourists gather to take photos next to destroyed buildings or graveyards. A country that exists only in my mind. Its flag has no room to fly freely, but there is a space on the coffins of my countrymen. D. Dar means house. My grandparents left their house behind in 1948 near Jaffa Beach. A tree my father told me about stood in the front yard. Dreams of children and their parents, of listening to songs or watching plays at Al Mishal Cultural Center. Israel destroyed it in August 2018. I hate August, but the plays are still performed in Gaza. Gaza is the stage. E, an email account that I used when the power was on, the email through which I smelled overseas air. I used it first to send photos to my aunt in Jordan, who we last saw in 2000. How easy it becomes to recognize what kind of aircraft it is. An F-16, helicopter, or a drone. What kind of a bullet it was, from a gunboat, an M16, a tank, or an Apache. It's all about the sound. F, friends from school, from the neighborhood, from childhood. The books in my living room in Gaza, the poems in my notebooks, still lonely. So that was 2000 something, but now nothing. The three friends I lost to the 2014 onslaught, Izzat, Ammar, and Ismail. Izzat was born in Algeria, Ammar in Jordan, Ismail on a farm. We buried them all under the cold ground. Fish in our sea that the fishermen cannot catch because the Israeli gunboats care about sea life in the Mediterranean. They once fished at the Gaza beach with a barrage of shells, and Huda Ghalia lost her father, stepmother, and 5 siblings in June 26. I walked in their funeral procession to the cemetery. Blood was still fresh on their clothes. They had poured out some perfume to cover the stench. Over time, my hate for perfume grew intense. G, how are you, Mosab? I'm good. I hate this word. It has no meaning to me. Your English is good, Mosab. Thanks. When I was asked to fill out a form for my US J1 visa application, my country, Palestine, was not on the list. But lucky for me,
If a helicopter stops in the sky over Gaza, no children play games or soccer, and English teachers would faint at what goes on today in written English, she said. Images on the walls of buildings. Shuck. A picture was placed on her desk while Pierre sits in her chair. I wake up ill when gloomy ideas about what might have happened to me come in my dreams. What if I had stopped for a few seconds at the window when a bullet from nowhere ripped through the glass? J. Once I sent a picture of my desk in Gaza to a friend in the United States. I wanted to show that I was fine. On the desk were some books, my laptop, and a glass of strawberry juice. When I sent that photo, I was jobless. About 47% of the people in Gaza have no work. But while writing these lines, I'm trying to start a literary magazine. I still don't know what to name it. K. My grandfather kept the key to his house in Yafa in 1948. He thought they would return in a few days. His name was Hassan. The house was destroyed. Others built a new one on its place. Hassan died in Gaza in 1986. The key has rusted, but still exists somewhere, longing for the old wooden door. In Gaza, you don't know what you are guilty of. It feels like living in a Kafka novel. L. I speak Arabic and English, but I don't know in what language my fate is written. I'm not sure if that would change anything. Light is the opposite of heavy or dark. In Gaza, when electricity is cut off, we turn on the lights, even in broad daylight. That way, we know when the power is back. M. Marhaba means hi or welcome. We say marhaba to everyone we see. It's like a warm hug. We don't use it, however, when soldiers or their bullets or bombs visit us. Such guests not only leave their shit, but also take everything we'll have. My dad used to prepare milk for us with some bershella before school. I was in 3rd grade and my mother was at hospital taking care of my brother. My brother died in 2016. I'll stop here. Ammiel.
Thanks, Mosab. N. In 2014, about 2,139 people were killed. 579 of them were children. Around 11,100 were wounded. Around 13,000 buildings were destroyed. I lost 3 friends. But it's not about numbers. Even years, they're not numbers. A nail is used to join 2 pieces of wood or to hang things on the wall. In 2009, the Israelis targeted an ambulance with a nail bomb near my house. Some were killed. I saw many nails on our neighbor's newly painted wall. O. Yafa is known around the world for its oranges. My grandmother, Khadra, tried to take some oranges with her in 1948, but the shelling was heavy. The oranges fell on the ground, the earth drank their juice. It was sweet, I'm sure. In Gaza, we had a clay oven that our neighbor Munir built for us. When my mother wanted to bake, I fed it wood stems or cardboard to heat it for the bread. The woody stems were made from dried plants, pepper, eggplant, and corn stalks. P. A poem is not just words placed on a line, it's a cloth. Mahmoud Darwish wanted to build his home, his exile, from all the words in the world. I weave my poems with my veins. I want to build a poem like a solid home, but hopefully not with my bones. On July 23rd, 2014, a friend called and said, Aizat was killed. I asked, which Aizat? Aizat, your friend. My phone slipped from my hand and I began to run, not knowing where. What's your name? Mosab. Where are you from? Palestine. What's your mother tongue? Arabic, but she's sick. What's the color of your skin? There is not enough light to help me see. Q. We were watching a soccer match. Comments and shouts filled the room. The power was cut off and everything became quiet. We could hear our breathing in the dark. Al-Quds is Arabic for Jerusalem. I've never been to Al-Quds. It's around 60 miles from Gaza. People who live 5,000 miles away can move there, while I cannot even visit. R. I was born in November. My mother told me she was walking on the beach with my father. It turned stormy and began to rain. My mother felt pain, and an hour later she gave birth to me. I love the rain and the sea, the last 2 things I heard before I came into this horrible world. S. I like to go to the beach and watch the sun as it sinks into the sea. She's going to shine on nicer places, I think to myself. My son's name is Yazan. He was born in 2015, or a year after the 2014 war. This is how we date things. Once he saw a swarm of clouds. He shouted, "Dad, some bombs, watch out." He thought the clouds were bomb smoke. Even nature confuses us. Tea. In summer, I drink tea with mint. In winter, I add dried sage. Anyone who visits, even if it's a neighbor knocking at the door to ask about what day or date it is, I offer them tea. Offering tea is like saying marhaba. They once said Palestine will be free tomorrow. When is tomorrow? When is freedom? How long does it last? You. It wasn't raining that day, but I took my umbrella anyway. When an F-16 flew over the town, I opened my umbrella to hide. Kids thought I was a clown. In August 2014, Israel bombed my university's administration building. The English department was turned into a ruin. My graduation ceremony got postponed. Families of the dead attended to receive not a degree, but a portrait of their child. When we moved from Cambridge to Syracuse, I looked out the window of the U-Haul van. What a huge country America is, I thought. Why did Zionists occupy Palestine and still build settlements and kill us in Gaza and the West Bank? Why don't they live here in America? Why can't we come here to live and work? My friend heard me. He was from Ireland. We both loved the Liverpool Football Club. In Gaza, you can find a man planting a rose in the hollow space of an unexploded tank shell, using it as a vase. W. One day we were sleeping in our house. A bomb fell on a nearby farm at 6 a.m., like an alarm clock waking us up early for school. In August 2014, after the 51 days of Israeli onslaught, the walls in my room had more windows than when I left, windows that would no longer close. Winter was harsh on us. X. When I was wounded in January 2009, I was 16. I was taken to hospital and x-rayed for the first time. There were 2 pieces of shrapnel in my body, one in my neck, another in my forehead. 7 months later, I had my first surgery to remove them. I was still a child. For Christmas, a friend gave the kids a xylophone. It had 1 wooden row. The bars were of different lengths and colors: red, yellow, green, blue, purple, and white. The kids showed it to their grandparents back in Gaza, whose eyes danced while the kids smiled. Why? Yafa is my daughter's name. I put my ears near her mouth when she speaks, and I hear Yafa's sea, waves lapping against the shore. I look in her eyes, and I see my grandparents' footsteps still imprinted on the sand. How did you leave Gaza? Do you plan to return? You should stay in the US. You mustn't think of going back to Gaza. Things people say to me. Z. When I was in the 5th grade, our science teacher wanted us to visit a zoo to see the animals, listen to their sounds, watch how they walk and sleep. When I went there, they were bored, gave me their back. They lived in cages in a caged place. We use a 0 article with most proper nouns. My name and that of my country have an extra 0 in front, like when you call overseas. But we have been pulled down beneath the seas. Do you see what I mean? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mosab, for gracing our presence from quite a far way away. And thank you, Ammiel. Our next poet is Kim Shuck.
Shuck, who is not notably vertical. Leaving childhood behind. When I left my childhood in the drawer and on the kitchen table. I left my toy horse in its plastic bag. I left without looking at the clock. I forget whether it was noon or evening. Our horse spent the night alone. No water, no grains for dinner. It must have thought we'd left to cook a meal for late guests or to make a cake for my sister's 10th birthday. I walked with my sister down our road with no end. We sang a birthday song. The warplanes echoed across the heavens. My tired parents walked behind, my father clutching to his chest the keys to our house and to the stable. We arrived at a rescue station. News of the airstrikes roared on the radio. I hated death, but I hated life too. When we had to walk to our drawn-out death, reciting our never-ending ode. What is home? What is home? It is the shade of trees on my way to school before they were uprooted. It is my grandparents' black and white wedding photo before the walls crumbled. It is my uncle's prayer rug where dozens of ants slept on wintry nights before it was looted and put in a museum. It is the oven my mother used to bake bread and roast chicken before a bomb reduced our house to ashes. It is the cafe where I watched football matches and played. My child stops me. Can a four-letter word hold all of those?
Next reader is Andrew Joron.
Hello, marhaba, marhaba. Thank you, Mosab, for teaching us this word, marhaba. My grandfather was a terrorist. He tended to his field, watered the roses in the courtyard, smoked cigarettes with grandmother on the yellow beach, lying there like a prayer rug. My grandfather was a terrorist. He picked oranges and lemons, went fishing with brothers until noon, sang a comforting song en route to the farriers with his piebald horse. My grandfather was a terrorist. He made a cup of tea with milk, sat on his verdant land as soft as silk. My grandfather was a terrorist. He departed his house, leaving it for the coming guests, left some water on the table, his best, lest the guests die of thirst after their conquest. My grandfather was a terrorist. He walked to the closest safe town, empty as the sullen sky, vacant as a deserted tent, dark as a starless night. My grandfather was a terrorist. My grandfather was a man, a breadwinner for 10, whose luxury was to have a tent with a blue UN flag set on the rusting pole on the beach next to a cemetery. On a starless night, I toss and turn. The earth shakes and I fall out of bed. I look out my window. The house next door no longer stands. It's lying like an old carpet on the floor of the earth, trampled by missiles, fat slippers flying off legless feet. I never knew my neighbors still had that small TV, that old painting still hung on their walls, that their cat had kittens.
Priscilla Wathington.
It's an honor to read your words, Mosab. Palestinian painter. Two birds leave their nest singing a song, perhaps for the artist working in what used to be a well-kept old garden. He's painting a new house, even a new garden, without shrapnel, without twisted metal beams, without broken bricks and loose electrical wires. But then I see him hesitate, looking at a headless doll lying in the rubble. I'm wondering if he'll paint it as part of the new house and the resurrected garden. It might destroy its harmony. It might disturb visitors from abroad. My grandfather and home. 1. My grandfather used to count the days for return with his fingers. He then used stones to count. Not enough. He used the clouds, birds, people. Absence turned out to be too long. 36 years until he died. For us, now it is over 70 years. My grandpa lost his memory. He forgot the numbers, the people. He forgot home. 2. I wish I were with you, Grandpa. I would have taught myself to write you poems, volumes of them, and paint our home for you. I would have sewn you from soil a garment decorated with plants and trees you had grown. I would have made you perfume from the oranges and soap from the sky's tears of joy. Couldn't think of something purer. 3. I go to the cemetery every day. I look for your grave, but in vain. Are they sure they buried you, or did they turn you into a tree? Or perhaps you flew off with a bird to the nowhere. 4. I place your photo in an earthenware pot. I water it every Monday and Thursday at sunset. I was told you used to fast those days. On Ramadan, I water it every day for 30 days, or less, or more. 5. How big do you want your home to be? I can continue to write poems until you are satisfied. If you wish, I can annex a neighboring planet or 2. 6. For this home, I shall not draw boundaries. No punctuation marks.
Ava Koohbor.
In the war, you and houses, you fight, you die. You'll never know who won or lost, or if the war ever ended. They didn't find a place to bury you. They carried you on their shoulders, wandered through the neighborhood, stopped at your childhood school and the old park. The houses never saw you. They've already packed their bags. Dust has erected a tent in the corners. Rust has landed with its worn out clothes on the tap and on the spoon. It steals from the water its soft slide while you slip on moving sand. Searching for a new exit. The curtain, heavy with fear, does not rise. As so often happens, someone has turned off the power. We are powerless. The oppressive air tries to move in vain. There is no light to help me see the boundaries of my state, my non-existent state. I cannot find the words in my Gazan dictionary, not even in my American Heritage Dictionary. I cannot find any words in my imagination to fill in the gap. Everything stolen by tornadoes from the east and west, battering our theater again and again. So many funerals. The air stirs suddenly, making whistling sounds. My spirits lift, no longer flagging, searching for a new exit. No applause. The drama never ends. The audience leaves before I arrive. Thank you.
Next is Soledad Concarne.
Seven fingers
Whenever she meets new people, she sinks her small hands into the pockets of her jeans, moves them as if she's counting some coins. She's just lost 7 fingers in the war. Then she moves away, back hunched, tiny as a dwarf. Gone with the gunpowder. Even if the land is barren, it doesn't mean no trees grew before. If flowers do not blossom, the spring never fails to come. Our houses towered as high as our cypress trees. We lit our street lamps with olive oil. Our houses no longer stand, gone with the gunpowder. The wind of death planted beneath the warm soil, the children's footsteps, the steam from grandmother's teacup, the smoke from grandfather's cigarette, flew into the black clouds, never looking back. The noise ahead pulled them by the neck. You can ask the sun. She saw everything. She wished she could stop the actors on the stage, but her neck was tied to a rope. And the villains, they performed their role even after the play was over, and I have nothing. I only write what I can hear of the echo of that noise while my neck stretches from time to time toward our distant houses, hopeful I will be watching their seeds when they sprout.
Trisha Lowe.
Flying poem. Like a woman hanging her laundry on the clothesline, I hang my words on the lines of my page. Heavy, frightened words spread fear in my room. They shrink when exposed to the sun of the reading eye. My words dry up. The next day, my brother, tired of gazing at those fainting letters, throws the book in the drawer. The sun sets behind the eyelid. The words in the drawer swelter and stew in their sweat. My little niece smells them. She opens the drawer. The words fly out. The poem is free. It lands in nests of migratory birds. They sing it to the passing clouds. Sobbing without sound. I wish I could wake up and find the electricity on all day long. I wish I could hear the birds sing again, no shooting and no buzzing drones. I wish my desk would call me to hold my pen and write again, or at least plow through a novel, revisit a poem, or read a play. All around me are nothing but silent walls and people sobbing without sound.
Sophia Dahlin.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you, City Lights. Thank you, Mosab. Free Palestine. Discoveries. We are fine, even though we don't feel well. Gaza is okay, although it has nothing to make her feel that way. In Gaza, the sun shines and the moon flirts with the leaves of the orange trees. However, Gaza's people come and go empty-handed. No good news to give to their children. No candy to sweeten their pale mouths, and no light to read by. Deserted boat dreaming. A deserted boat, I sit alone on the beach. Waves approach, trying to reach me, as if to touch my hand. Tell me that I'm safe, at least for now. Seagulls fly overhead, casting split seconds of shade and joy. Darkness falls quickly on a moonless night. I find myself drifting out to sea. A watery door opens from beneath. I am swirling, being whirlpooled to a state I've never experienced before. I feel safe, safe for all eternity. Rest in peace, I hear my father say. You found a better place. Thank you.
Evan Kennedy.
hard exercise. In Gaza, breathing is a task. Smiling is performing plastic surgery on one's own face. And rising in the morning, trying to survive another day, is coming back from the dead. I have my ticket from a bus journey that I took, the Palestinian bus from Jerusalem to Ramallah, above my writing desk. And I think about those passengers quite a bit and the scrutiny they experienced and that I managed to avoid, in part because I funded it. The wall and the clock. There's always that clock on the wall. Every time I step into my room, I feel curious, want to take it down, see what's behind its face. I want to see how old it has become. My father bought it when I was a child. I want to count its teeth to know its age. But the clock doesn't get old. The numbers never change, only I do. And then there's the rocking chair, and I am sitting in it, just me in the room, rocking back and forth, doing nothing but imagining the wall, shouting to the clock, "Stop ticking, you're hurting my ears." I look at the cracks in the paint on the wall. It's more than just the sound of the clock. Shrapnel holes stare at me whenever I enter the room. The clock wasn't harmed in that attack. I hurry to pull the batteries out of the clock. I whisper to it, "I'll take you to the doctor, even though it's not only you who's sick." The paint stops peeling. I take the clock to the clock maker, ask him to make it soundless. He removes the clock's vocal cords, patches its mouth shut. I didn't see the teeth, didn't ask the doctor. At home, I put the batteries back. The clock works silently. It adds to the silence in the room. I settle back into my chair, read some poems aloud to break off the threads of silence that dangle from the ceiling. A cold night breeze seeps through the holes in the wall. I tear out some pages I finished reading, stuff them into the wall, shapeless, non-closable windows. I am 2 hours late for work the next day. The clock wasn't set right after its treatment. Surely it would have alerted me if I were capable of speech. Number 4 falls from the clock's face when I try to adjust the time, as if a front tooth has fallen out. 4 days later, my brother Hudaifa passes away.
Nathalie Khankan.
Mosab. Mosab, you shouldn't, but you do. And every morning we wake up to find your words in our ears. All this dying, all this denial, yet Palestine abounds. Mosab Abu Toha, cold sweat. Drenched in sweat, I can see the stars through a bullet hole in the ceiling. I run my hands through my hair. My damp trousers are sticking to my legs. I hear a noise. I look around. There's no one else in the room. I cannot feel my body. I look in the mirror. It was the chatter of my teeth. Tears. Tears trickle down my silent cheeks. I feel embarrassed. I don't want to bother them, nor any part of my body. Everything around me wants to stand silent, unmoved by the air, by my breath. Everything wants to stop for this moment. Even our olive tree bends when it sees the bomb fall. The tree's curly hair touches the dry sand. Its many green eyes are pierced by shattered glass. The windows of our living room, kitchen, and bedrooms, and my father's library, where a couple of sparrows nest in a corner in the ceiling. The dust from our destroyed house is still falling slowly onto our neighbors' trees and rooftops. While the rubble and metal bars, those are heavy, they have already fallen quickly to pound the rough, scorched earth. Now the sky sheds tears on us all, and the dust settles onto the deformed stones, its makeshift grave, until the wind blows it onto a safer space, maybe into a van of VIPs crossing the border. Out, out, and forever.
Norma Cole.
Hello. Hello, Mosab. My city, after what happened some time ago, the noose is tightening around the city's neck. Looters strip the city, sell off its clothing and jewelry to the monsters in the sea. Trees, bare and heads down below their yellow leaves, trying to cover the private parts of houses. Bathtubs filled with warm water for the new bride and groom. In the stall, they are selling a photo of my young grandmother. They don't know she began to smoke when she got older. I wish I had a cigarette with me to put near the frame. I once tried to light a cigarette and smoke. I burned a finger and never tried again. My grandfather's cane leans against a dusty wall near my young father's school bag. Two men hurriedly grab the books piled up below the table, buy them for the first price the seller announces. Their hands vomit them into the sea close by. The words' eyes turn red with salt. The maps drink too much and water floods their lakes and rivers, seeping out from the pages. The city no longer exists except in the craters. I have nowhere to go except down a new untrodden road. In Gaza, some of us cannot completely die. Every time a bomb falls, every time shrapnel hits our graves, every time the rubble piles up on our heads, we are awakened from our temporary death. Through it all, the strawberries have never stopped growing. We love what we have. We love what we have, no matter how little, because if we don't, everything will be gone. If we don't, we will no longer exist, since there will be nothing here for us. What's here is something that we are still building. It's something we cannot yet see because we are part of it. Someday soon, this building will stand on its own. Well, we will be the trees that protect it from the fierce winds, the trees that will give shade to children sleeping inside or playing on swings.
Mimi Tempest.
After Audre Lorde. For those living on the other side, we can see you. We can see the rain when it pours, our fields, on our valleys, your valleys, and when it slides down the roofs of your modern houses built atop our homes. Can you take off your sunglasses and look at us here? See how the rain has flooded our streets, how the children's umbrellas have been pierced by a prickly downpour on their way to school. The trees you see have been watered with our tears. They bear no fruit. The red roses take their color from our blood. They smell of death. The river that separates us from you is just a mirage you created when you expelled us. It is one land. For those who are standing on the other side, shooting at us, spitting on us, how long can you stand there, fenced by hate? Are you going to keep your black glasses on until you're unable to put them down? Soon, you won't be here for you to watch. We won't be here for you to watch. It won't matter if you blink your eyes or not, if you can stand or not. You won't cross that river to take more lands because you will vanish into your mirage. You can't build a new colony on our graves. And when we die, our bones will continue to grow, to reach and intertwine with the roots of the olive and orange trees to bathe in the sweet Yafa Sea. One day, we will be born again when you are not there. Because this land knows us. She is our mother. When we die, we're just resting in her womb until the darkness is cleared. For those who are not here anymore, we have been here forever. We have been speaking, but you never cared to listen. We deserve a better death. Our bodies are disfigured and twisted, embroidered with bullets and shrapnel. Our names are pronounced incorrectly on radio and TV. Our photos plastered on the walls of our buildings fade and grow pale. The inscriptions on our gravestones disappear, covered in the feces of birds and reptiles. No one waters the trees that give shade to our graves. The blazing sun has overwhelmed our rotting bodies. Free Palestine.
Julian Poirier.
Thanks. Hey, Neeli. Everyday meals during wars. In previous wars, our neighbors would share meals with us in our basement. My brother would start a fire in the old brazier, and I would prepare tea and put the kettle on the burning coals. There were truces every couple of days. My father could go out and check on the hens and ducks in their coops. My mother would climb the ladder to the roof to put water in bowls for the sparrows and pigeons. Men would be taken to jails or concentration camps. They could see those who were fighting and killing them and their families. Nowadays, we don't see those who take everything beautiful away from us. We don't even see our shadows during the day. The F-16s swallow the light from the sun, casting the shadows of their fat bellies on us, dead or alive. Bombs punch the houses, knock them down, smash the fridges and the dishes. A house turns into a stew of concrete and blood. We no longer share meals with the neighbors. Us and them. I want to build my house on a swing. I don't want to walk on this earth. I tell them about houses being shelled, about bodies shred into tiny pieces, about a noisy sky and shaking ground. And they tell me about their concern over the little flowers they haven't watered for hours, over an ailing canary in the cage, over a TV show they know they will miss tonight. Their ears hurt when they hear sirens, but we are made deaf by explosions. Their muscles stiffen with fear on their way to the shelters, while ours are pierced by boiling shrapnel.
And our next reader is Neeli Cherkovski.
Silence of water. Father typing on a keyboard. Mother reading the morning paper aloud to cover the sound of a neighbor's radio. Hanging lamps swinging in the breeze from a cracked window. Flies losing balance sometimes. Black-white pictures on walls, searching for colors. Kettle on stove. One big drop hammers the roof. No lightning, thunder, or clouds. It rains only on this house. Dust and concrete stuff the nostrils of other houses. Water on stone. No longer boils. Shrapnel has cut its throat. On Gaza seashore. I convinced myself that a plum tree never bends, nor do its dates rot. I imagine the sky only occupied by birds and swollen clouds. I walk alone along the beach and never fear getting drenched by the cold, silent waves. Should you find me asleep, be sure I am either dreaming of roses and doves or staring into the void beneath me. I will dress in my rosy suit and walk to the port, even though I know no ship is arriving. My hope is that you will come flying to me on your tireless wings. I will collect seashells and pebbles to build a house for us on the beach until you come. I don't know how many houses I will have built before you come. I'm afraid I will rebuild Gaza by then.
And our next reader is Agneta Falk.
Hello. Hello, Mosab. On shrapnel looking for laughter. The house has been bombed. Everyone dead. The kids, the parents, the toys, the actors on TV, characters in novels, personas in poetry collections. The I, the he, and the she. No pronouns left, not even for the kids when they learn parts of speech next year. Shrapnel flies in the dark, looks for the families, peals of laughter hiding behind piles of disfigured walls and bleeding picture frames. The radio no longer speaks, the batteries have burned, the antenna is broken. Even the broadcaster felt the pain when the radio was hit, even we hearing the bomb as it fell. Threw ourselves to the ground, each of us counting the others around them. We were safe, but our hearts still ache. A voice from beneath. I want to drown myself in the silence of absence, to fill my pockets with poems, and throw myself in a lazy river. A distant voice calls upon me to build a room from straw and clay, to raise a black flag in the night, to play the piano on the crossing owl, to the crossing owl. A voice from beneath shakes my desk. The ink spills on my drowsy pants. It pummels my fingers and constricts my breath. It asks me to stop writing heavy poems, poems that have bombs and corpses, destroyed houses, shrapnel-covered streets, lest the words stumble and slip into the bloody potholes. That voice takes away my voice. It squeezes my poetry pages, tears them from my head. Blood showers my curly hair. My desk becomes crimson red. Screams fill the cracks in the walls and the potholes in the nameless roads. Free Palestine.
Tonya Foster.
Hi. Thank you, City Lights, for doing this. Thank you, Mosab, and Ammiel for reading. I was really turning over the use of the word love, right? And Bell Hooks contends that love is work. You know, it's the labor of the poet, but it's also the labor of the community to kind of hold the pieces of the self that one thought one was, and sometimes to put you back together. Palestinian streets.
My city's streets are nameless. If a Palestinian gets killed by a sniper or a drone, we name the street after them. Children learn their numbers best when they can count how many homes or schools were destroyed. How many mothers and fathers were wounded or thrown into jail? Grown-ups in Palestine only use their IDs so as not to forget who they are. Palestinian sonnet after Wanda Coleman. Seized by echoes of suppressed words, I surrender my memory as I flee for the maze. I see signposts directing me to retreat whenever I try to explore. Every day I set foot in the maze, I close my ears, but the shouts of suffocated whispers paralyze my shadow. Letters slide from my mouth into an icy river, break the reflection of vapor that emanates from melting clouds. The chattering teeth of cold raindrops drown out my throbbing silence. It is not me who attempts to walk in the maze. My withered umbilical cord tries to pull me to my sick mother's bedside before it is cut mid-nowhere. Free Palestine and genocide.
Next is Susan Gewirtz.
Ibrahim, Abu, Legad, and brother in Jaffa. The two walk toward the beach, barefoot. With his soft index finger, Ibrahim starts to draw a map of what used to be their home. No, Ibrahim, the kitchen is a little farther to the north. Oh, don't step over there. Dad was sleeping there on the couch. Tourist kids run by, flying kites. The waves hit the beach, shaded with cloud cover. The mosque on the hilltop calls for prayer. Ibrahim and his brother still argue about where their kitchen was. They both sit on the sand. Ibrahim takes out a lighter, wishes he could make tea in their kitchen for everyone on the beach. Ibrahim looks upward to what used to be their kitchen window. The mint no longer grows. Desert and exile for men in the sun. Which is vaster in the night, the desert or the dark? Which is heavier on the sand, your feet or your fear? Why don't you knock on the walls of the water tank? Is sleep wrapping its thick rope around your mouths? I can hear the sound of wheels on the moving sand and the throbbing heart of silence. The driver loses the map and takes you to the earth where you will be buried. But all the prayers and anecdotes you shared will be heard by the mirage of exile, desert, and the bones of dead camels and horses whose riders are buried under the obliterated footpaths.
And next we have Ariel Resnikoff.
Ahlan wa sahlan, masal khair, shukran City Lights, shukran Mosab. To Mahmoud Darwish, his eyes are tightly closed, his glasses on the nightstand, a pen and paper rest under his embroidered pillow, waiting for the call of the muse. He tells me how he once saw himself floating on a white cloud, light glittering from above and beneath. He didn't need his glasses to read the distant signboard under the moon. I ask him why he has come for this long journey. He says, to return in a few hours. He asks, do you know why I was born? To live for some years and die. He goes up Mount Carmel in Akka and returns to our table on the beach. I climb the mountain only to return to the table. He sips his bitter coffee and looks at himself in the mirror. I don't like to see myself on TV. That is pure narcissism, friend whispers. Bastard you are, Mahmoud shouts. I am not afraid of death. I am ready, but I am not waiting for it. He hates waiting. He asks death if it could wait for some time until he finishes writing his new poem. He looks at himself in the mirror and puts a fresh rose in his lapel for the coming long journey. To Ghazan Kanafani, never thought that returning to Haifa would lead to a bloody path. Lakes were not full of water, but mines. When you opened the door to the car, it wasn't the door to Said's house. The old Polish Jew, Miriam, didn't show up to let you into your stolen home. Death swallowed you and Lamis down into its deep valley. Shrapnel was the tattoo marking your bodies for the ghetto of the dead. Shukran.
Patrick James Dunnigan.
Thank you. Edward Said, Noam Chomsky, and Theodore Adorno in Gaza. Dust tiptoes in a standing ovation after the explosion. Light hits the icy earth, fades into the town's potholes. Edward Said is out of place again. His books fall from my shelves onto the broken window glass. Palestine is also out of place. Its map falls off my wall. Edward's exile bleeds again of wars, of continued estrangement. Chomsky innately repairs the wounded words, applying bandages, from his universal grammar kit. Adorno tries to study the music of the falling bombs and shattering glass, but the words slipping from the books mystify his sight and mind. The dust covers his glasses. The musical score lies breathless near his shivering feet. Displaced in memory of Edward Said. I am neither in nor out. I am in between. I am not part of anything. I am a shadow of something. At best, I am a thing that does not really exist. I am weightless, a speck of time in Gaza, but I will remain where I am. From Palestine to Mexico, all the walls have got to go.
Our next reader is Zayden Zelif.
Masa al khair, everyone. Poet Sarah Maguire was a translator of Palestinian poetry into English for so many years and introduced many Palestinian poets into English language readers, was fond of saying that poetry translation is the opposite of war. Today I'm reading two of Mosab Abu Toha's poems, followed by my translations into Kurmanji. We need to stand against genocide and aggression in every language. To Ibrahim Keilani, Jerusalem didn't know you came not to visit it, not to see and greet its mosques and churches, not to smell thyme and sage in its narrow streets, not to taste its freshly baked bread, not to touch its olive trees, but for it to see your soul leave through tiny holes in its old walls. Shbo Ibrahim Keilani. اورشلیم قد نزانی تنهاتی جواناوی نجی سلاو و نرینا بدی دیر و مزگفت دوی نجی بینکی کوری میسکو تف زنبورا کولان دوی نبشکینی نانه گرمش نان پیج دوی نجی دستا بپلینی لسردار زیتون دوی لیپادا و باش ببینه روحیتا یکو بدکش یکو چکوچ قل هورکه دیواری وی. A boy and his telescope. A big white plane flies in the sky. A child tries to see its passengers using his telescope. A flock of birds, a flock of migrating birds crosses by. A stiff wind blows. A mass of clouds pass. The plane is gone. Near the fence, the child needs no telescope to watch planes hovering in the air. He can see the grenades, the cameras. A fierce wind roars. The child hears the buzzing sounds of the drone. Thick clouds cover the sky. They blacken after mixing with the smoke of burning tires. Threads of sun hang in the air. Butterflies flit across them like the fingers of a young guitarist plucking the strings. لاوك وتلسكوب رو تختك سبي لأسمانا دفري ساروك بتلسكوب أخوال سوارد ويدقري رفك جوك يكوش بير درباست بي باكي دجوار دقندري برستاك أو داد قري وتخت كونداد بي الجمسيمي زاروك نحو جي تتلسكوب آيا دارو تختت لأسمانا الشين هاتين ببيني نارنجوك لبرجافا قمرجي باكي دجوار دزوري قوهي زاروك جي القرى درونا دكبي أورين تاري أسمانا دقريفن رشد بن بشتي تيكل دومانا تايري سر آگر دبن تيجين روجي ش أسمانا دون دلن بلاتينك دناف دفرن وقت ليل جيتاربانك يخورد تيلا بجنن فلسطين حرة Free Palestine.
Next up is Josiah Luis Alderetti.
Yuvo Mosab, mi hermano. The wounds. Israeli aggression against Gaza, December 27, 2008 through January 18, 2009. A Saturday, first day of the week in Gaza. Age 16, and after the first finals, I finished my Arabic exam. I liked Arabic as much as I liked English and soccer. I discussed my answers with my father, home by noon, who stood on the roof of our house. Watched the pigeons my father raised as a hobby. The limitless ceiling above us was part blue, part white. Ships of clouds sailing slowly in windless sky. A series of explosions shook the house, the neighborhood, shook the earth. Words fell from my mouth, broke on my stiff bare feet. Birds from nowhere flew aimlessly in the open sky. Some hid in trees. The pigeons in their big coop trembled. Rock pigeons, Egyptian pigeons, king pigeons, and halabi pigeons. A tiny egg fell. My answers must have fallen off the pages of my exam, maybe melting from fear. I saw black smoke rise from a building a few kilometers away, blacker than the ink on my exam sheets. We didn't hear the F-16s until they finished their strikes. They descended from the Inferno. Dante hadn't mentioned them. About 80 F-16 aircraft with their bombs struck Gaza in unison like a big drum roll announcing someone's death. But it was more than one death, I thought. It had to be. We hurried to the radio, that old dirty box that usually vomits blood and body parts into our ears, hospitals full of burning wounds, moans, a corpse, and a girl missing her leg lying on a cot or a bloody floor. Over 200 policemen killed, and 700 wounded in that dark hour. They had been training in police training facilities, and 2 million other people worried for their lives. Don't think of us as numbers. It was the first day of the year when Israel targeted a neighborhood in Jabali camp. A Hamas leader named Nizar Rayan was killed. He was buried under the rubble of his house with 15 of his family, mostly his children, youngest aged 2. On TV, I watched when a man pulled out a headless child, another with no arm or leg, so small I couldn't tell if boy or girl. Hate ignores such details. The houses were not Hamas. The kids were not Hamas. Their clothes and toys were not Hamas. The neighborhood was not Hamas. The air was not Hamas. Our ears were not Hamas. Our eyes were not Hamas. The one who ordered the killing, the one who pressed the button, thought only of Hamas. My brother, Hudayfa, was born deaf and mute. He never grew up well, either physically or mentally, but emotionally he was fine. We didn't know that. He was watching TV with us when videos and photos of deformed bodies and limbless people appeared on the TV screen. 2 days later, Hudayfa was hit inside in a place we couldn't see. We gave him a glass of water. He poured it on the floor. He broke dishes, snatched the TV cord, bit his clothes. We cried for him. We prayed for him. Days later, he came back to us. On the 8th morning of the Israeli attack, the tanks rolled in and I heard bullets. I peeked through our living room window. The living room was no longer living. I watched a tank on a hill near my school. A bulldozer was building sand berms for tanks and soldiers to hide behind. We had no place to hide. We dared not turn on the lights or go up and feed the pigeons or water the plants in our garden. Our neighbors said we could stay with them. They had a basement, more secure than our house. We took some clothes and food and books and the radio. The Israelis fired shells randomly near our neighborhood. Parents thought it wasn't safe to stay. A few hours later, we returned home quickly to stuff more clothes into plastic bags. My dad said we would walk over to our aunt's house in Shika Ridwan. We prepared ourselves for the 40-minute walk. It felt like ages of walking. We were dead and alive. Death was hovering over us. The Apache helicopters, the F-16s and the buzzing drones. We saw no one, only lonely houses and motionless sand. I saw some trees, green leaves beginning to pale. 200 meters away from our house, I saw a yellow Mercedes stopped in the middle of a road, nothing moving around it. It had some cooking gas canisters and sacks of wheat flour on its roof rack and in its trunk. An Israeli bomb had killed the driver and others. My friend's brother was one, Mohammed Abu El Jidyan, age 18. A few other passers-by were wounded near the car. The canisters had exploded and the wheat spattered on the ground. Fresh bread baked with red hot blood and sand for yeast. Next to it, a stalled ambulance, the paramedic killed. Arafa Abdel Daim was my 4th grade science teacher. I saw his blood and part of his scalp and hair next to the wheel of the ambulance. I was later told he'd been on his way to help those injured in the attack on the yellow Mercedes. The Israelis had used a nail bomb in the attack. As a child, I never knew nails could kill people. I thought they were only used in construction. I was fooled. My science teacher never taught us how to use a nail. My science teacher never taught us how a nail bomb works. It wasn't part of his class. My poor teacher. No one came to rescue him. Dear teacher, Did you know that after your burial, the Israelis killed 5 of your family in the cemetery? They didn't like how you were buried, it seems, and hoped your family could improve with practice. At that same ambulance attack, my new neighbor was murdered. Ghassan Abul Amarin, barely 20. Now I'm older than he was. Ghassan went out to buy bread for his mother. He didn't return home. The family got worried, turned on the radio to check if his name was announced. This has been how we learn about our dead. A hospital secretary who knew the family called that night. He told them about an unidentifiable young man lying in the morgue, wondered if it was Ghassan. News about Ghassan's death arrived, not him. My 3-year-old sister, Saja, was my companion on the journey out. She grabbed my hand tightly. My parents and siblings were walking behind. We dared not look back to see them. I had 7 siblings at the time. We dared not look behind and count them because what if they became less? Some bullets rained near our feet. The Israeli tanks sat on a hill far away, but for them, with their scopes and ammunition, we were very close. Before we left, my dad had let the hens out of their house to eat from our garden until we came back. The pigeons were set free too. He was sure they'd return when we were back. It's January in our aunt's house when we fast on a holy day. My mother gave me 5 shekels to buy some eggs and bread for my little sister's breakfast. I put on my small black slippers. I put the coin in the front of my hoodie. I'm not happy. I don't like to fast. Barely 16, I'm on my way to the grocery shop to buy some damn eggs. I love boiled eggs. I see a large crowd of people gathered at the crossroad. I get curious. I walk towards them. Being small, I cannot see through the crowd. A yellow light hits. My head's split half open. I feel this somehow. The light might help me see more clearly, I tell myself. Blood drips onto my eyelashes and hoodie. In the brief moments standing there, I'm asking myself, how come you can stand while your head is slashed open? Everyone around me has collapsed to the ground, fallen like beads of sweat. I still stand. The picture freezes before me. The smell of gunpowder crawls into my lungs. Like a madman, I begin to run around. Someone gives me a tissue to wipe the blood on my left cheek and forehead. I need much more than that. It's not only my cheeks and forehead. The shrapnel has also blown holes in my neck and shoulder. I'm no longer wearing my slippers. The 5 shekels have disappeared. I look around. People are rushing towards us. A vehicle approaches. Ambulance, it says. There's no paramedic, first aid, no bed to lie on. Come on, it's my first time being wounded. I get inside. Someone throws a corpse in next to me. The body burnt, maybe no head. I don't look at it. The smell is so bad. I'm sorry, whoever you are. The smell of death. I open the window for fresh air. The ambulance driver doesn't ask me how I am. At Al-Shifa Hospital, people in and out. I walk into the emergency room. No one looks at me. I sit on the ground next to other wounded people. Some lie on the floor like burnt matches. A nurse who checks on me sees the hole in my neck and the wounds in my face. She starts to touch my abdomen and back to see if there is any wound I cannot feel. An elevator carries my gurney upstairs to the radiology room. A doctor tends to my wounds. Someone is looking after me. An hour passes. My father and brother walk in. My brother points at the hole in my neck. Your index finger could fit in that hole. It's a centimeter from your windpipe. If, when the rocket fell, I had moved my head a bit to watch a bird on a tree or to count the clouds coming from the west side, the shrapnel might have cut through my throat. I wouldn't be married to my wife, father of 3 kids, one born in America. My brother tells me, hearing the explosion and knowing you hadn't returned home yet, we assumed you were dead. We began searching for you in the morgue. I look around me. Relatives circle my bed. I watch them as they chat. I imagine them praying around my coffin.
Barbara Jane Reyes.
Death Before Birth, DBB. A pallid smile on the face of the sky. A nightingale departs the wet earth to start its day, looking for seeds to eat. A drop of cold water falls from its beak onto a lazy snail. Everything is in motion, the air, the branches on the trees. An apple falls. The sound of a drone intrudes violently. It fails to move on and leave us alone for some seconds. Refuses to listen to music or the whistling of birds. People die. Others are born. For us, the fear of dying before living haunts us while we are still in our mother's wombs. To my visa interviewer, which one of me do you plan to interview? I am many, some I don't even know. Need you interview my clothes, books, toothpaste, comb, my baby son's diapers and napkins, the food not yet digested in my belly? It will find its way out before I get my visa. I will have traveled before I do. You will ask for my brothers and sisters' names. Some have passed away. Will you need their names? Do you plan to resurrect them? I don't know all their birth dates. I can only remember my youngest brother's death date. He died on October 14th, 2016. You will ask for all physical addresses in the past 10 years. We lived in North Gaza. During every Israeli assault, we were displaced, living in a UN RWA school, my aunt's house, or in the street. You will ask for all email addresses and phone numbers used in the past 5 years. I used them only when the electricity was on and when someone was there to respond. I lost 3 dear friends in 2014. Aizat and Amar and Ismail. You will ask for my website. I am no spider, and my site is wherever a rose grows, wherever clouds cast their shadows on roofless houses, wherever a bomb does not fall, wherever a child does not confuse a cloud for bomb smoke. Thank you.
Next up is Lindsey Boldt.
Olympic hopscotch leap. We sit and drink tea in the hot night of Ramadan. Boys play hide and seek. Girls hopscotch around. Mothers chat and laugh. A buzzing sound of drones flying above my family and friends stops the games, the chatting and the laughter. A missile falls, only falling into farmland nearby. Shrapnel cuts electric wires. Dust tops off our tea like latte foam. More missiles come flying in, on the lookout for anything that moves. Angels get hold of my infant niece. We look around and find only her milk bottle. Mosab. My father gave me a difficult name. Inside it sit two letters that don't exist in English. My father didn't know I would have English-speaking friends, always asking how to pronounce my name or trying to avoid saying it. But Dad, I like to hear others address me by my name, especially friends. Even my name's root means difficult. A camel that is described as Mosab is one that's difficult to mount and ride. But I'm not difficult in any way. I will undress myself and show you my shoulders, how dust has come to rest on them, my chest, how tears have wet its thin skin, my back, how sweat has made it pale, my belly, how hair has covered my navel, the spot where my mother fed me before birth, the same spot, they say, the angel of death will pierce to take away my soul. And now at night, my son's head hurts when he rested on my belly. And my clothes, I feel them loose while others see them tight on me. When someone from the life insurance company calls and pronounces my name in English, I see the angel of death in the mirror, with eyes that watch me, crumbling onto this foreign ground. Free Palestine.
Staiti.
Notebooks. I walk carefully on the beach, look to see if a child's footsteps lie ahead, a child who's lost a leg or two, or can no longer hear the waves. This angel of death just turned my body into pieces and took my soul. It left me lying there on the bloody ground, my fingers resting on a neighbor's broken window. It didn't look back to see if I was smiling or crying, or if my mouth was even intact. It just wanted my soul. My family was out looking for my body. During the night airstrikes, all of us turned into stones. When I hear the explosion, I can smell the sand that blows through the still air to gather on my windowsill. I can hear the little dog that barks whenever the branches of an almond tree stir. He thinks it's a bird trying to scare him. Is it time to play? The thick dust falling onto the tree and the dog and blowing in through my window clears the confusion. I turn off the lights at night so the F-16s and their bombs don't catch me, so the dust doesn't race in to cover my new clothes, so the bullets don't hit my shoulders when they cut through the skinless air. I walked down the road and saw a tree. I wrote a poem about its slim branches and vivid leaves, a robin in its nest, watching a baby in a stroller, a mother rolling up her sleeves. The next day, I walked down and found the tree not there. I hurried to my room, looking for the poem in my notebook. The page was torn out. I returned to that road, no tree. I go back to my room. The notebook is not there. I look into the mirror and see a specter of my younger self. I squat to pick up my pen from the floor. The mirror follows me and shatters on my head. I wake up. Raindrops slip into the frying pan through a hole in a tin roof. We left the house, took 2 blankets, a pillow, and the echo of the radio with us. Why is it when I dream of Palestine that I see it in black and white? People say silence is a sign of consent. What if I'm not allowed to speak, my tongue severed, my mouth sewn shut? Even the pens wanted to write about what they heard, what shook them when they were napping in the early afternoon. The grave was brimming with sand and prayers and stories that fell from visitors passing by. It's been noisy for a long time, and I've been looking for a recording of silence to play on my old headphones.
Brian Lucas.
Thanks. Salam alaikum. Rubble salary. Why doesn't the warplane heave some rubble overboard after bombing? A house to increase the pilot's salary. On the scale, stones and rebars are heavier than souls. Things you may find hidden in my ear. 1. When you open my ear, touch it gently. My mother's voice lingers somewhere inside. Her voice is the echo that helps me recover equilibrium when I feel dizzy during my attentiveness. You may encounter songs in Arabic, poems in English I recite to myself, or a song I chant to the chirping birds in our backyard. When you stitch the cut, don't forget to pull all these back in my ear. Put them back in order as you would do with the books on your shelf. 2. The drone's buzzing sound, the roar of an F-16, the screams of bombs falling on houses, on fields and on bodies, of rockets flying away. Rid my tiny ear canal of them all. Spray the perfume of your smiles on the incision. Inject the song of life into my veins to wake me up. Gently beat the drum so my mind may dance with yours, my doctor, day and night.
All right, next up, Carlos Quinteros, the third.
Thank you. Memorize your dream. Close your eyes and walk on the ocean. Dabble your hands in the water and catch the words of your poem. Write the words upon the clouds. Don't worry, they will find their land. Open your eyes. In the night, the sea is no longer blue. Look around, and from the falling raindrops, choose your punctuation marks. Put on your swimsuit, dive deep down, and search for a title for your epic. Embark on your moving homeland, your boat. Go to your bed, and in your sleep, begin to memorize your dream. I'm forever homeless. Before my long travel, I pack my suitcases, stuff them with some sand from our land, some scent from my mother's kitchen, and sounds of birds in the morning. And in my pockets, I put the 4 directions. My hands are the compass. At the airport, I beg the officer not to open the suitcases and, if needed, to touch my clothes gently. Otherwise, I would be standing on nothing, surrounded by nothing, see nothing. I would be weightless and forever homeless.
A rose shoulders up. Don't ever be surprised to see a rose shoulder up among the ruins of the house. This is how we survived. Thank you very much, everybody. Peter, you want to close it up? Yeah.
Well, that concludes our program. To those of you online, thank you for joining us tonight. We have posted links with which you may donate to MECA. And for those of you here, we also have a basket at the front counter. Or if you haven't picked up a program, please do. There is a QR code with which you may use to make a donation. Thank you all. Thank you, Mosab. Be well, be safe.